and welcome to this episode of What Will I Be When I Grow Up? Our guest today, Ashley Robinson, grew up in Oakville in Ontario, where she developed a strong curiosity about people, communities, and how society works. She pursued this interest academically and earning a degree in sociology and anthropology before continuing her education in law. Her path included training as a paralegal and ultimately achieving a law degree, reflecting both her dedication and drive to keep learning. Today, Ashley works at a great company where she applies her skills and knowledge with professionalism and care. She's also a devoted parent to children, balancing a busy career with family life. In her free time, Ashley loves to read, travel, and learn new things, always eager to explore new places, ideas, and perspectives. Welcome to the show, Ashley. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for taking the time with all the time difference and all of that. So thank you. I usually like to start the podcast by asking my guests to tell me a little bit about their childhood and how some of those experiences influenced their lives and their decision-making processes. So maybe a little bit about your experiences in school, your family and friends, and how they've influenced you in your life.
Yeah, so I have had the same group of friends since kindergarten. So I grew up in Oakville. I went to elementary school in Oakville. I went to high school in Oakville. I, however, never really loved school and I didn't really do very well in high school, honestly. And I think the social aspect was much more important to me. My parents, I'm an only child. Um, My dad was a cop in Toronto, so he was a police officer. And I think that also kind of shaped a lot of who I turned out to be because not only was it in the legal field in a sense, but it's also um, very moral and very do the right thing and very follow by the rules and be very organized. And he was forever studious. And so I think that shaped a lot of who I became, at least educationally and professionally. There was never like a ton of pressure though for me to go to post-secondary or anything like from my parents. I can't say if I didn't end up going what they would have done, but it was really all of my friends were going. And so I decided to also go. Um, but yeah, so it was, it's a semi-sheltered life. However, it's still enough that made me want to go and travel a bit and find it a little bit more. So,
So your dad was a cop. What was that like to have I mean, I know you said that that meant
mm,
quite a rule-driven life, but like, did he do exciting things? What kind of cop was he?
I know he has like pretty exciting stories pre me being around. I think probably when you have a child, it has to calm down a bit. But his whole thing was traffic. And so he even now continuously every year writes an annotated version of the Highway Traffic Act. He just loves traffic. And so um, you definitely felt like you had to hide a few things here and there when you were growing up, but he was young once too, and I think it's always the ones who go into the legal profession have the more like of a saucy background, and so, um, but he definitely like I wasn't getting anything past him, I will say. So yeah,
I think all kids hide things from their parents. It's just
yeah,
a part of the course. My parents were teachers growing up, and they taught me. I come from a small town, not terribly dissimilar to Oakville, having been to Oakville. And having two parents who were teachers meant that I couldn't really get away with a lot because everybody knew the mom taught in the local primary
right.
school and dad taught the local secondary school. So everybody kind of knew me. So couldn't get away with too much.
Just made you better at it, better at getting away with
Yes, better
it.
itself. Um, but would you say that like these you said that you didn't love school and it was more like the social aspects of school that kind of were more meaningful for you. Did you find that then when you went to university things were uh did that change? Did you develop more of an interest in academia when you went on to university?
I would say 100%. Because I think in high school, these are the classes you have to take, and no one really wants to be doing them. And there's a lot of pressure to like, get good grades so you can get into university. And I think maybe 1% of the people that I knew that they wanted to be or had to be a doctor when they grew up. And so you know exactly what courses to take. Everyone else is just the blind leading the blind, and no one knows what's going on. And I actually, even my university experience, um, I blindly applied to one of the universities and I happened to get in. And I think I just did a general BA for the first year. But I didn't like that school. As an only child, it was 45 minutes away from my house. And so I was home all the time on the weekends. And so I was like, you need to branch out and get a little further away. And so I then in second year went to Bishop's University, which is in like the eastern townships of Quebec, and it's maybe 2, 3 hours east of Montreal. I was like, I won't be able to get home if I go this far. And so I went there. I love it. It was beautiful. I met great people. But then I kept going into Montreal. And so I changed again for my third year and I ended up at Concordia University where I stayed. So I will say that first year, no, I still didn't like it because I think it was learning how to study, understanding that maybe high school didn't really prep me so well on how to do so. And then the remaining years, I think you really are independent and you find yourself and then you're like, I'm paying for this education. And it's like, very successful, intelligent professors and people who have a common interest. That's where I landed in sociology and anthropology. And then I was also enjoying life outside of it. And so I think you really find your niche and you find your people and you can actually be interested in it because like I didn't want to do physics and I shouldn't ever do physics. So I think
Same.
yeah.
Same. Literally exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Um, so interesting to me that you changed universities a couple of times. Would you say, because it sounds like that was driven by, well, firstly, you said, being too close to home wasn't
Mm-hmm.
especially helpful to in that process of kind of growing up. It's one of the things that we find a lot in Malaysia these days. Like there's an unwillingness to leave home because it's so
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And life is easier if you stay at mom and dad's because someone does your laundry, someone cooks your food, probably get a car to drive to college. Um, and there's this sort of like we've moved away from this excitement of going away and experiencing
Mm-hmm.
something new. So it fascinates me that that first year you were like, oh, this is not a good thing that I'm going home every weekend. Could
Mm-hmm.
you sort of pinpoint why you felt that way? Like, what was it that made you think, this is not good?
Yeah, I think I wasn't really making any friends there. I wasn't like developing this life that everybody else seemed to have at university. And then when I went home, there would be random friends there, but everybody else was living their best lives at their university as they should be, like in their first year. And I think from a pretty early age, I've always really dug my heels into the feeling of being uncomfortable because I think it's so scary. And I think like to move, not only was Bishop's 8, 9 hours away, but nobody really speaks a lot of English in Sherbrooke, Quebec. And so I was like, if you throw yourself into this situation, you're going to be forced to pick up a new language. You're going to be forced to make new friends and you're going to have to like create this life for yourself. And everything that seems scary initially just becomes comfortable after a while. And I think it's just daunting to think of things that are unfamiliar. And so I think I knew even then that if I threw myself into it, I will get used to it. And if not, you can always change your mind and go home. But I think that was a huge driving force in that. And I was just, when I was in the one that was 45 minutes away, I was picking up rides every chance I could. It's like, are you going back to Oakville? Because I'm going to hop in that car because I know I'll have fun there because it's comfortable. And again, my mom will do my laundry and my dad will drive me back. It's no problem. But yeah, so it was definitely you only get one chance at this undergrad experience. And so I think we have to go away. So,
Yeah, and no, I agree. I 100% agree, right? Like I guess we're coming to it as, people who are in our 40s who've experienced life and we see the value proposition of like going away. But what I think it would be great if you could tell us what you think the value of that is, right? Like, so yes, it's scary.
mm-hmm.
And you said you like to be scared, but what if someone doesn't like to throw themselves into the deep end, right? They're like, well, why would I do that? I don't want to have to do my laundry or make new friends or learn a new language. But actually, what was the outcome for you that made you, whether you
Mhm.
look back and you kind of go, see, it's so good that I did that.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think when you go, I mean, not, I know a lot of people who went, stayed at home and loved their university experience. So I know it's not for everybody, but I think you learn more than the degree you're getting when you go away for the first time. And it was really learning who I am without my parents and really learning. I left, like I said, I've known these people since kindergarten. So it's leaving this group of people who I've been familiar with forever and then meeting new people from new backgrounds. Like Oakville's like very sheltered, as I said. So there's usually like one kind of person here, or at least when I was younger, there was. And so to move out of your comfort zone like that, I think kind of taught me to be an adult and to manage how I'm eating, which I didn't do very well. But still, I think manage your studies, manage how you're eating, knowing it's 11 o'clock at night, I should be coming home now, like all these responsibilities that were outside of the curriculum that I was learning. And so I think to some degree, you could do that if you stayed at home for sure. It would just look a little bit different. But I think there's so much value if you have the opportunity to move away from home and even for a year and just try it. So
I love what you said. The line that struck with me is finding out who I am without my parents.
yes.
Something
Yes.
super valuable about that. Super,
Yeah.
super valuable to find out like who you are outside of that. I mean, again, this really resonates with me because I grew up in a small town too. And, when I visited Oakville, it just felt it reminded me a little bit of where I grew up. And that this I couldn't wait to get out. Like that was my big
Hmm.
thing. Like 17, I'm like, get me out now, quickly.
Yeah.
So I think for me, genuinely going away was transformative. It did, kind of like you said, helps you understand who you are outside of that comfort zone, outside of the same friends, the parents, etc. Um,
Yeah.
and then you talked about kind of sociology and anthropology as the degree that you chose. Was that all? You said you started off with a general degree because I guess the Canadian system allows for that. And
Mhm.
then how did you land on sociology and anthropology? Was it in the second institution or the third institution?
It was in the second institution. And I think even in the first, I knew that I wanted to do something that studied people. So it was either psychology or sociology for me. And I think because sociology is really the study of how people interact with each other as opposed to the person's actual, what's going on in their brain. And I think, especially as an only child, I hung out with a lot of adults and I didn't say very much. I just sat there and I watched. And so that was very familiar behavior to me. And so I think learning why people do what they do was of an interest to me. And I think that even present day, I think that followed me. Like I'm still the one at the party not saying a lot. And I'm just watching how people, I think you're just more in tune with what's going on. It's like you didn't pick up on this, but she wasn't happy with that. So I think and then anthropology kind of went hand in hand with it. But I think it also, I mean, like a lot of undergrads, it's like, what are you really going to do with your sociology degree? And so I continued, like, law is just another form of working with people and understanding people. But I didn't really know. I just took a path of interest, I guess. And that landed me there. But yeah.
Yeah, I very
Yeah.
nearly did a sociology degree, but was banned from doing it by family.
Oh,
Because same question, what would you do with an anthropology degree or
right. Yeah.
sociology? Why? And so then, like you, I too landed on law, but here we are doing different things.
Yes.
So you pursued so just like walk me through this for students who are interested in studying in Canada, for example. Do you do an undergraduate degree in something and then you do
Mhm.
law as your postgrad?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't get in Canada, you can't get into law school without an undergrad degree. So, but I mean, I did my undergrad degree not here. So I didn't have to, but that's the way that it would go here. Yeah.
Okay, okay, got it. And so tell us about being a paralegal. So, how did you make that decision to go from kind of having studied sociology, anthropology, and then
Mm-hmm.
to work as a paralegal? But because your job, it sounds like there are multiple layers to it. There's the paralegal bit, and then you also do like, you're also a
Yep.
contracts manager. So, do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes. I will also say that because I traveled around, I was non-committal with my undergrad university choices. Um, it took me an extra year. So in a like three to 4 year program, I was in it in about 5 years. And I intentionally say that with you because even when we have our interns in at my work, there's always this, and I get it because we were all in it, but there's this race to finish. And it's like you have to finish undergrad because, and the people who took that travel year, you're like, wow, that's really great for you. But, you're missing starting your career like with the rest of us. But I always tell them we all landed in the same job. Like there's no, you're only racing against yourself here. And so I think at the time, I definitely was thinking, I'm so far behind everyone else. And now I'm basically a super senior and I'm in my fifth year of university and it's delaying me. And so, but it changed nothing. So we can all take that as a lesson that it did nothing. And then I came home and didn't know what to do with my sociology degree. And my dad being a police officer at the time, so when I went to school to be a paralegal, they were called court and tribunal agents because it was like many, many moons ago. It's been since changed for to a paralegal. And so in Ontario, paralegals are licensed under the same law society as lawyers. And so they can do, I don't know, maybe 40, 50% of the stuff that lawyers can do. And it's beneficial in some ways because not a lot of people can afford to hire a lawyer to get a traffic ticket or to do certain smaller things for them. And so it's more affordable. And so my dad had this dream that we were going to open a traffic fighting firm called How the West Was Won. And so, because as we know, that's my maiden name. And so,
I
yeah, yes, yes, because it's often like if you go, at least here, if you get a traffic ticket, you go to a firm to help them fight you, and it's either a retired police officer or a paralegal that goes to the people who are helping you. And so I did my internship. I went to school to be the paralegal, and then I did my internship at a traffic firm. And they were lovely people, but it was like, this is horrific. Like, I did not like it at all. It was like not the court that I wanted to be in. It was not the work that I wanted to do. Just great experience. And it definitely introduced me to the legal field, though, because the paralegal education, it's a little bit of every kind of law. And then you're forced to do this internship. Afterwards, it was basically like insurance defense, so still same area. So we're still working with automobiles. And I still hated it. I hated it so much. And so I actually left and then, what's it called? Attempt. And this is also like another piece of advice that I would give young people because I went to this random temp agency. They ended up putting me in a law firm and they were moving from one floor to another floor at this building. So I was making labels on file folders for them to move. It was like nothing big that I was doing, but they saw the like dedication I had to this. And I was showing up every day. And then one of the paralegals were going on vacation and the lawyers needed someone to replace her. And so I stepped up there and then they wanted to offer me a job, but I was offered another job in the meantime. But the point being is, you know, I was making labels, but nothing is too good for you, because you never know who you're going to meet. It's rarely about the education that you have, and it's more about what you're bringing forward to this workplace, the people that you're meeting and your people skills and showing them like what you can do. And so from there, though, I ended up at a in-house, like working at a law firm or a legal department in a company. And so I left the automobile industry, much to my dad's chagrin. So I
No, I
Master's
love
not
that.
one.
But I deeply regret that the firm was never set up. That would have been a great name.
I know. It's never too late, Vina. I
I
could still do
guess.
it. Yeah.
There's still time. Um, but it's interesting because when I went back to university to do my master's, I worked part-time at the university I was studying at. I worked at their international office. And, I was like 25, 26. I had quite a lot of work experience at this point. But I was like you, I was packing boxes. I was doing
Yeah.
stuff that nobody else wanted to do. But I really kind of leaned into it because I thought this is this is important. I just need to
Yeah.
get the experience. And I need people to understand that I'm hardworking. Like I will do the work.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
really interesting that that university now is our biggest client at MABECS.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we work super closely with them. I mean, they've always been a big partner, but
Yeah.
like the people that work there now are still the people who worked there when I was like a young punk, like packing boxes. And no, it's amazing because they really value that. I value that relationship, and they value that relationship. So it
Yes.
stretches back 20 years.
Yeah.
So to me, that piece of advice is spot on. Like, don't you're not too good for you know anything.
Yeah.
Just you got to do it. Like, don't. You're not
I
going to
know.
become CEO when you're 22 unless you got some daddy's money.
No, I think too, like not only can people potentially see potential in you when you're doing these things, but if you're doing something like packing boxes and making labels, you're potentially getting involved in conversations and in places
Yep.
that other people aren't. And so maybe you're in the CEO's office helping him pack his box, and then you're like having a conversation with him. And so I wouldn't be closed-minded. I think it's just any opportunity is a good opportunity and make the
Yeah.
most of it. So yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. But you also, you worked as a paralegal for a number of years and then recently decided to pursue a law degree via distance.
Hmm.
I was,
Yes.
I know we talked about, tell us about your decision-making process. We know who was involved in part of that, but I
Yes, we
would
do.
really like to understand, like,
Yes.
what you think, okay, this is a great idea. Let me do a law degree part-time whilst being a
Yes.
paralegal and a mom of two.
Yeah. And I was chairing the parent association of the kids' school as well. So it was just like boom, boom, boom.
I, I remember that.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I try to forget. No. Um, yeah. So I think that there's many layers. I think I had thought about going to law school after I finished my paralegal education. And if I'm being completely honest, I just didn't think I was smart enough to do it. Like I didn't think that I had what it took. And you have to write the LSATs here. And then when you write the LSATs, then you apply with that grade and your other transcripts to get into a Canadian law school. And I was like, I don't even think I'm smart enough to do that. I don't want to do that either. And then um, at the time, my my boyfriend at the time was a Bay Street firm litigator. And so that's like big time in Toronto, basically. And I was young and my only exposure to law was like TV and then watching him go to work. And I was like, I cannot do that. I can't go to court and be so aggressive and have these arguments. And so I was like, maybe it's just not for me. And so I dropped it and I just continued on because I was like, paralegal is good enough. And it is good enough. Like, paralegal is a great profession. But it always was in the back of my mind. And then fast forward, when I was having a discussion with a friend who happens to work for a university and in the recruiting industry, her exposure to these types of stories was so common. And her initial knee jerk reaction was like, just do it, just apply then. And it was just easy as a third party looking in, it's so much easier to see that potential in someone else. I didn't even think about it. I just like went home and applied for law school and then found out that I got in. And so I think not overthinking it was definitely helpful. There was a few reasons I did it through the University of London and online. Um, but I definitely had hesitations still because I was 39, I think, when I started. And to many, it's like you're already in your career. Like just like sit tight and keep going. And I think my mentality was more like eventually I'm going to turn 40 no matter what. So why don't I turn 40 with a law degree? Like I'm going to get there anyway. And so like why don't I just try to have more education? And even though I might become a lawyer later in life and you can have greater experiences, maybe a bigger paycheck, it's like then just do that then because then I might be 50 years old by the time I get there, but I will get there and then I can check it off my list. And so it was also a part of that being uncomfortable thing though that I have because I was like, this is not going to be easy for me, but I'm blindly accepting this and I'm going to go through with it. So, but for me, it was, on the heels. No, we were in COVID when I was doing that. And so I was like, I can either write the LSATs and travel into Toronto every day and maybe be online anyway because it's COVID, or I could just do it online. And I had two small children. And I was like, this is just easier. I can do it on my own schedule. And so I opted to do that and then enrolled in the University of London. So it was,
What would you say? Because you sort of mentioned it a little bit when you were in your decision making process. You thought, okay, if I do this here in Canada, I'd have to do the LSATs, and then I'd have to do,
mhm.
I'd have to go into the city, etc. But like, what would you say some of the pros and cons of studying for a degree via distance learning are?
Yeah. I think pros is you're in the comfort of your own home and you can do it at your own pace typically, because I think the University of London had I want to say a 7-year window that I could complete it in. Um, I did it in 2.5 because I was like, let's get this done. But you can kind of take your time and do it at your own hours. So I have two small kids, so I would do it at dawn or after they've gone to bed. And then you save so much travel time because I'm not like Toronto is a good hour away, and then I would be on the train and then coming back. And so it would be late at night. And so I avoided all of that. I think the con is I know every university does it differently. The University of London, it's basically self-study. And what's funny is I feel like a lot of at least lawyers, but I guess people, if you heard that this person came and learned this education from a different country and it was like self-taught online, it's so knee-jerk to like look down on that to say, it wasn't as good of an education and it came from a different country and all of these things. Having experienced both, I think I have so much respect for people who do that because not only I was like, you're teaching yourself law school. That's insane. Like to sit there and read all these texts. I ended up getting a tutor who actually lived in Sri Lanka. And so I would wake up even earlier to meet with him because I was like, I can't do this. But I think that the self dedication and like it was kind of tough. And there's no, this is the professor, you can contact them anytime. They're and your classmates, it's like, you know, one's in on this island and one's in Papua New Guinea. Like they're all over the place. And so you're not in the same time zone. And so it can be hard to kind of form some form of bond with people. But um, I also feel like I now have a very new respect for people who come to Canada from a different country and they're these well-established doctors, lawyers, whatever their profession is, but we're still kind of making them do a little bit more education because it's just not quite good enough. And I don't understand it being in it really. I think if this is a different law, so just tweak these things, but it's all kind of same. And so I think it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of that. But yeah, I think that there's definitely pros and cons. I think there's something to being in person when you're learning and in that classroom environment and having access to the teacher. But then I didn't mind online either. I think, yeah,
I guess it depends on like where one is in one's life, right? And what
100%.
one's commitments are, etc. And also, I guess in your case, you'd already had the undergraduate experience. Like you
Yes.
knew what it meant to study for a degree. So I guess
Yes.
that helped in the process. Do you think you'd like to pursue a career as a lawyer now that you have your law degree?
Yeah, I think that like my goal is so I have to do accreditation stuff in Canada in order to become a lawyer, and I'm going through that process now. But my plan is to keep doing the job that I'm doing at the company that I work for, just in the capacity of a lawyer. Um, yeah, I definitely think I would, but I think too with the young interns that I referenced, especially now. And I mean, you're living proof of it as well, where I was like, you can get this law degree, but you don't have to be a litigator on Bay Street. You can do whatever you want with it. It's just more education, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so, if you're going to do the lawyer route, I think there's so many types of lawyers that you can be. You can be like the quiet tax lawyer, you can be the angry litigator, you can be whatever you want to be. Like, it doesn't matter. You choose what you want to be. And so, I think I would definitely do a degree in law, and or sorry, become pursue being a lawyer. But I also think that to what you said about me having the undergrad and experiencing that, again, the advice that I would give a fresh, new, recently graduated from high school. I don't know if this would always be the best route, only because to your point, I was already settled in my career and I wanted extra education. I could take my time and I could do whatever I wanted. And so I think if you have no life experience and no work and career experience, and then I came with this degree, because in the UK you don't need the undergrad, you just have the law degree, that at least here, I think like a law firm would just think that you didn't quite have enough. And so I think depending on where you're at, to your point, I would give that advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. If you look back at your career, is there anything that you think you'd do differently?
I feel like my knee jerk to that is to say I would go to law school immediately and I would become a lawyer immediately. But I actually don't think so, because I think that if I look back, I just wasn't ready. I don't think I was ready. I think I needed a lot more life experience and a lot more self-development in order to know that, of course, you can do this. And the lawyer over here isn't smarter than you. And you can also pursue this law degree. And so I think currently, I wish maybe I was already a lawyer and doing all the things. But realistically, if I look back, I don't think I would. I think that everything I did got me here, and I think I would, yeah, because I think you don't know what you don't know, and I think all of the life experience that I had when even like in my actual law school, working with 19-year-olds or however old they were, which we've all been there, it was like I just have such a calmer approach to this, because it's like, oh, I'm going to fail this test and I'm not going to get an 80 and I'm not going to, I need to get the highest mark in the class. And because of where we're at, I'm like, do you? Or do we just have to pass this? You know what I mean? Because unless you really want to go somewhere with your high grade, I was like, take the knowledge and just move on from it. Like, because you don't have to be the best of the best. And so, but I don't think I had that before. And so I definitely think that it all happened for a reason at this pace. So,
Yeah, I remember thinking that when I was doing my MA, and I was still only sort of 25, 26 at the time. And everyone seemed much younger because at the time, most of the people who did the course had just finished university and they just didn't know what to do. So they're like, okay, I'll do a master's. And I feel like even then that gap seemed quite wide because I was like, it's okay. I'm here to learn. I don't need to
yeah.
be, you know. Although I did want a distinction for my Emmy, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's true.
But
It's like that won't
I
hurt.
think that's just maybe nothing. The type A like must be the best vibes.
It's
Um
true.
um Uh,
Yeah. Well, I do remember being in those classrooms, like in my undergrad, and there was like the older gentleman in the back. And when you're 19, you're like, what is this man doing here? Like,
yeah,
like
no,
they don't, yeah.
there was an older lady in my law school as well, and I remember thinking, she's, why is this ancient person here?
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah, I know.
know.
Now I'm the ancient person, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know. You get mistaken as
Yeah,
the professor, so it's okay.
yes. Um, cool. I just think that's really it's a really that idea that we get to things when we're meant to get to those things. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, you don't have to be like racing down this career path. It's hard to listen to, I think, though, when you're 18 or 19,
Oh,
40 something seems really far away. But it comes for
yes.
you, kids. It comes for you.
Yes, exactly.
um,
It's true. And I also understand, honestly, like I appreciate, we've all been there. Like I appreciate the race and you have pressure from your parents and you have pressure from your friends and this friend landed some great job and you're still straggling around here. And like, obviously we understand all of that, but I just think we all end up in the same place though. And so I think unless you're going to be some crazy neurosurgeon, it's going to take you some time. I
mm,
think like one of my colleagues is amazing, but he went to this amazing private school and he went to like this great university and but we're working side by side. And so he probably had a whole different experience and had many different contacts and whatnot. But you're just on your own path and you're all gonna like
yes.
no one's landing better than anybody else is. You're just kind of taking your time to get there. And to your point, we're all gonna end up being 42 someday. And
Yeah.
so I think just it's so cliche to say, but just like really enjoy your time getting there because I we will all end up here. And so I think if you're going to go to
If we're
school, you might as well
lucky.
enjoy it. If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
for
Yeah.
sure. So I was going to say, any final thoughts for young people who are thinking about what they want to be when they grow up? I feel like we've given them some great thoughts already, but anything else to
Yeah.
add?
I think two of the things that I notice with at least, again, the only exposure I have is really to our interns, but is I always say that you're really only in competition with yourself. And I think it's never too late. And I know again that that sounds so cliche as well because, you know, we're just old to some people. But I think if you really wanted to pursue something, like why not? And so the whole why not me? Like why wouldn't I go to law school? And you never know if you decided to do that, if I changed and all of a sudden went to med school, I may not make it as a successful doctor, but it could bring you somewhere else. And so I just think that there's so many barriers that people put up because of everything that society is pushing on them that I think you should just do whatever you want to do. I know that you're going to get there. And I think, I don't know. I think if you think you can't, you very much can. And I think if you don't, a big one, you don't think you have time. Yes, you do have time because I often had people saying, how are you a mom working full time? You're in law school and you're chairing this PA and you have a social life and you're working out and you're doing all these things. It's like if you want something done, you give it to the busy person. It's if it's important enough to you, you're going to find time. It's you can do it. And so I think that is the advice that I would just trust yourself a little more and ask for help.
Yes, that's another
Yeah.
important piece in the puzzle. You don't have to do it all yourself.
Yes.
Other
Just
people.
ask for some advice. Yeah.
Yes.
Email me.
Are you sure you want that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for taking the time to talk to us. I know it's late-ish in Canada, and it's been a really valuable experience kind of hearing about your journey. And I hope lots of people will listen to this. And particularly, not necessarily just young people, but like people who are thinking of pivoting and changing careers, etc.
Hmm.
I hope they listen to this and feel like that it's possible, it can be done. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Of course. Anytime. It was lovely to see you.